Hey, what's up guys, Riff here. So today we're going to be once again talking about Black Myth Wukong. This game has been a breath of fresh air for many, offering not only some solid and promising gameplay, but also it is developed by a team that has been very vocal and against politics and other virtue signaling being included in their games. And as a result of that stance, they have become the enemy of Western games journalists who have been trying to slander the team and also give negative reviews of this game as it's prepared to launch in a few days. They have claimed that this game is not inclusive enough. Now, why do games journalists in the West hate Black Myth Wukong so much? Well, the story begins with who else but Sweet Baby Inc., because of course it involves them. So it was reported by the Wukong devs a few months ago that Sweet Baby Inc. approached them with a $7 million in what they call extortion attempt, basically saying, pay us $7 million for our consultation, or you're going to get canceled in the West and you're going to lose out on sales as a result of that. Where the devs, Game Science, who is behind Wukong, rejected Sweet Baby. And conveniently, in the very short time period after that, a series of hit pieces primarily from IGN would release, accusing the developers of Game Science of sexism in a sexist work environment. Now, we've gone into in depth about those claims before, but basically, in a nutshell, most of the claims are supported by zero evidence, and the ones that are supported by supposed evidence are a few screenshots of social media posts by some of the devs where the translations are very poorly done. In fact, they are so poorly done, many people believe they were intentionally mistranslated to hurt the reputation of the game science development team. Now, in an ironic twist, this attempt by these games journalists to cancel Black Myth Wukong and its developers has backfired. Gamers have seen what these journalists are doing, and they are rallying behind this game and its developers, who they now believe are being persecuted by these woke journalists. And people are very excited about the release of this game. And like I said earlier, the reviews are coming out, and there is a lot of hype surrounding Black Myth Wukong. Right now, it is the most wishlisted upcoming Steam game, and on top of that, it has actually reached into the top 10 of the most active players because they released a simple benchmark tool. So in the wake of all these reviews coming out, it has been reported that Game Science made certain terms that they want people to use when they're reviewing this early access. So they say, by using the game key and creating content, you acknowledge that you've been informed on the following content and your statements are not related to the marketing team. And they say in the do's and don'ts, the primary don't that everyone is talking about is this right here. Do not include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse, which I think is a very fair thing to ask of people who have the benefit of early access for the purpose of reviewing. But this is a funny dichotomy here where games journalists are reporting this section as a negative thing, but gamers are looking at this as a positive thing because they don't want these things in the game or in the reviews. However, the reviews overall have been very strong. In China, the reviews are predictably very strong, and even in the US and also Western reviews in general, the reviews are pretty solid. Even IGN, who's released all these hit pieces on the development team, still begrudgingly gave it an 8 out of 10. However, looking at all of the review scores, there's one big outlier here, and that is Screen Rant. A lot of people are talking about their review, where you can see they gave Black Myth Wukong a 3 out of 5. Now, people are paying attention to this not just because of the poor review, but for the reason they gave this poor review. Mainly this part right here in their cons, saying lacking in inclusivity and diversity, which is an insane claim, by the way, because this is a game starring essentially what is a monkey ninja. And on top of that, it is trying to be truthful and faithful to Chinese mythology that this game is based on. They're basically asking this game to go against its own culture and create a different narrative to be more inclusive for God knows who, right? And also the thing that is very frustrating is that this reviewer allowed this to bump down the rating. That is an insane thing to factor in with your game review, how much inclusivity there is in the game. But let's read some of their analysis here. So this is what they wrote. While my analysis and review of Black Myth Wukong remained focused on the gameplay, it's important to mention the controversies surrounding the game studio and the reports of misogyny and sexism from developers. Playing as a female gamer allowed me to notice issues surrounding inclusion and representation. She's got that power of being a female gamer, apparently. So, of course, they start this article off by talking about the accusations. Like I said, heavily debunked and very criticized, but every single time there is an article or review about this game, these games journalists include it. It is a very, very strange thing to see, and really just baffling why they hate this development team so much. But they go on to say that there's a lack of female and feminine NPCs in their review, and on top of that they say this: the lack of diversity and inclusivity resonates with the misogynistic comments reported to have been made by the developers, which express disdain for women playing their games. Although Black Myth Wukong does have truly enjoyable moments, the underlying feeling that women aren't welcome in this world felt present throughout my gameplay experience. It's worth noting that the game is based on the novel Journey to the West, which does consist of a few important female characters. To not include any women, or to include or only include a few in an adaptation meant for a modern audience is quite disconcerting. So they're going here with that modern audience. Anytime you hear that modern audience phrase, you're about to hear something really stupid, and that's what we got right here. Now, of course, people have been dunking on this Screen Rant review because it seems just illogically attached to this concept of inclusivity, and that basically that is the make or break of this game, and gamers are laughing at that. They have no interest in that. That's not important to them for this game. They just want to play this game based on Chinese mythology. And another thing very important to note here is that after this review was getting heavily criticized, a note was added at the end of the article saying this: editor's note, the author's name has been removed for their safety, which is a very cowardly thing to do. If you're going to put your name on an article that's also sharing slanderous allegations against this development team, your name should be displayed. It seems very cowardly to remove it. Now, of course, it's very easy to find who it was. A lot of people had this screenshot to begin with, and this was the author, Samar Abedian. So you can find their Twitter, and there's really almost nothing on their Twitter account except one very interesting piece of information. They say that they're a PR intern at Splendid Comms. Now, what is that? Well, if you look into their company, they are a consultation firm, much like Sweet Baby, but for more general products. And you can see their motto here: being people first. We believe that team diversity enriches our collaborative culture and our work for clients. We are keen to meet candidates from all backgrounds, so please get in touch if your skills, experience, and attitude match ours. And you can see the companies they've worked with. It's very interesting to see a consultation firm like this focusing on diversity somehow getting hired by Doritos, as if that has anything to do with diversity in your attempt to sell Doritos. But anyways, after that, I noticed that recently they added another note below that saying the studio behind Black Myth Wukong Game Science has previously been accused of fostering a toxic environment for its workers. The 2023 allegations include sexualized comments against women, misogyny, fat phobia, and more. More detail can be found here. So it seems like they're trying to do some damage control and push the blame away from themselves. It's not their allegations, it's someone else's allegations. And what do they link? Well, an article from The Gamer, which ironically shows one of the female characters from Wukong, which the other reviewer said doesn't exist. But in this article, they cite the report from IGN. So it all comes back to this report from IGN that has been debunked, but all of these games journalists are using as evidence that there is some kind of sexism going on with the development team at Game Science. Now, Mark Kern would also discover something pretty interesting. Kotaku would make a quote-unquote review of Wukong. However, there's something very interesting about this review in particular. So there's only two parts of the review. And the first one, of course, predictably, is slandering them. They're sharing the IGN report and saying that there's all these allegations against the studio and the development team and yada, yada, yada. However, the rest of the article is doing reviews of other games journalists' reviews of Wukong. So they're just basically aggregating all of these reviews that exist from other platforms and making their review of that review. And it's very telling because this seems like Kotaku was never given access to Wukong. They got no early access to this game to do their own review, which, number one, is hilarious and very deserved. I'm not surprised based on the stances that their development team takes that they would not want to work with Kotaku, especially giving them the privilege of early access. But on top of that, I think it kind of feeds into the narrative that they have some sort of a grudge against game science, and that they included that section slandering them as a way of basically getting back at them for not giving them early access, which is really embarrassing that they didn't get it because even IGN got early access, and IGN is responsible for the hit pieces on them. So if they gave IGN early access but not Kotaku, that tells you how little respect game developers have for Kotaku. But overall, that's going to do it for this video. Definitely a very interesting situation with Black Myth Wukong, which releases in a few days, and a lot of people are really excited about it. And like I said earlier, I think it's a breath of fresh air for a lot of gamers, not only with its gameplay, but also with the attitude of the development team, reflecting what gamers actually want, and not that of games journalists who want to ruin the industry. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.